This cold isn't something we can tame. We did this to our climate. Now only the Earth herself can restart her warm heart.
With Big Alice now permanently physically connected to Snowpiercer, the latter train is completely surrendered to the smaller one. Unable to drag Big Alice behind it, Snowpiercer is dependent on the smaller train to get both trains going again. Exploiting the situation, Mr. Wilford has sent Alexandra Cavill, demanding supplies in exchange to start Snowpiercer and prevent a mass dying in the freezing cold. Layton and the rest give in to the demands, while Melanie, who was outside, gets on board Big Alice just when the trains start moving again. With the new reality setting in, Layton realizes that Mr. Wilford wants complete control over Snowpiercer as well as its passengers. Using the supply exchange, Layton and his group attack Big Alice and even take over its tail car. Hearing of the attack, Wilford sends in Icy Bob, a modified man who can tolerate sub-zero temperatures. Letting the freezing cold from the outside in, Wilford forces Layton and his men to retreat. During the fight with Big Alice, Layton had taken Kevin as a prisoner. Together with Roche, Layton questions him and Kevin reveals Big Alice's low food supply. Realizing that Kevin is weak, Wilford proposes to trade Melanie with him, and Layton agrees. Back on Snowpiercer, Melanie tells Bennett and Javi about the falling snow she saw when she was outside, which could indicate that the planet is starting to warm up again. After having squeezed out his usefulness, Wilford orders Kevin to kill himself because he showed Layton their food problem by gorging on the chicken given to him. In the medical car aboard Snowpiercer, Zara discovers that Josie is still alive, but badly injured by the freeze. After conducting some research, Melanie is convinced that the Earth is warming up and shares this with Layton. However, needing Big Alice and her resources, they hold a meeting with Wilford, and Melanie explains that someone needs to stay on a research station to monitor the temperature. Seeing his opportunity, Wilford proposes it to be Melanie, to which she agrees. After she is promoted to a detective, Bess stumbles upon a case with a woman named Lights, who has her fingers cut off in a way that shows the W from Wilford. Needing both train engines to perform as one in order to pull off Melanie's drop-off at the observatory, Wilford and Bennett establish a direct line of communication between both engine rooms. However, Wilford doesn't really believe in the mission and is simply glad to be rid of Melanie because he believes that without her, Layton cannot maintain control over Snowpiercer. Needing Big Alice's technical supplies, Layton and Wilford strike a bargain for those supplies in exchange for food. With Melanie making this supply exchange, she gets on board Big Alice and has a mother-daughter conversation with Alex, who blames her for leaving her again. Meanwhile, Bess's investigation leads her to the Breachers, who are still loyal to Mr. Wilford, but deny any involvement in the attack on Lights. Almost arriving at Melanie's drop-off point, Alex drives both trains and pushes Snowpiercer over the Rocky Mountains and near the observatory. Arriving at her drop-off point, Melanie says goodbye to her daughter and jumps out of the train. In exchange for medical aid to passengers with frostbite, Wilford requests a night out in Audrey's night car. Layton approaches her, and after much hesitation, since Wilford had used her in the past as a rag doll for all kinds of things, she concedes to Layton's will. Staying true to his word, Wilford has both Dr. Hedwoods take Josie with them aboard Big Alice to begin her healing process. With tensions rising aboard Snowpiercer, Lights and some other tailies attack one of the Breachers' Boki, believing him and his men to be responsible for the attack on her, while Bess visits the Breachers' room and talks with Pastor Logan about all the unnecessary death aboard the train. Later that night, Wilford is welcomed aboard Snowpiercer, and with his eyes fixed on Audrey, they retreat to a private chamber where she reveals how he forced her to cut her wrists in the past. But being the sly man that he is, Wilford slithers himself back into her good graces. After a tense moment, Melanie finally manages to contact Snowpiercer and lets them know that she has made it to the observatory. Whilst being treated on Big Alice, Josie combines it with her role as a spy, seeing Icy Bob being prepped for some mission and relays that information to Layton. Further down the train, Sykes, the head of security on Big Alice, tells Wilford that their contact on Snowpiercer has given the signal and their mission is a go. Later that day, Wilford invites Audrey for dinner, with Layton and his crew using the opportunity to monitor Big Alice's internal communications by having Audrey plant an exploit in their comms. That night, Audrey arrives on Big Alice, while Bennett tells Snowpiercer Command that Melanie has missed an uplink and may well be dead. Completing her journey, Melanie arrives at the observatory and begins her work to start monitoring the temperature in the atmosphere. Being alone, she starts thinking about the beginning of their journey with Wilford and how they got into an argument about essential personnel. While he wanted to increase his security at the cost of scientific personnel, she argued that they needed the scientists. Realizing that Melanie hadn't done what he had asked and still kept the scientists on the passenger list, he ordered his men to shoot down the incoming passengers. In the ensuing chaos, Melanie decided that they had to leave now, leaving her family, Alex, and Wilford behind. In the present, Melanie discovers a rat having made his nest in a small and warm cave and concludes that the weather is indeed changing. When her antenna is then knocked down, she's unable to communicate with Snowpiercer and misses her uplink. Feeling the vibrations of the approaching trains, she rushes outside to be picked up, but the trains move at high velocity past her and she is left behind. Following her deafening silence, Layton and the rest assume that Audrey has switched allegiance, since they have not heard from her. Their assumption is proved right when Audrey reveals to Wilford her mission and tells him she abandoned it for him. He then tasks her to fix Kevin, who apparently survived his suicide attempt. Successful in her assignment, Wilford welcomes her back into his arms. After several breachers are killed, Bess starts an investigation into their murders. Together with Layton, she soon finds out that Eugenia killed one of the breachers. Due to their death, a train-wide attack against the tailies is launched by Wilford loyalists, and chaos ensues. Thinking back on her conversations with Pastor Logan, Bess realizes that he is the one behind the killings. Being a Wilford loyalist and his spy on board Snowpiercer, Pastor Logan wanted Layton gone and Wilford reinstated. Bess goes to confront the pastor and he attempts to kill himself but is saved by her. After stopping the rioting together with Ruth, Layton witnesses red lanterns being lit in numerous cars, indicating their support for Wilford. He realizes that he is losing the war. Aboard Snowpiercer, several water leaks cause Layton and the rest to worry about sabotage. Bennett thinks that there is something wrong with the gills, and together with Layton asks Boki to investigate. A reluctant Boki eventually decides to help them and discovers that something was indeed blocking the gills, causing him to switch allegiance to Layton. On Big Alice, a dying Icy Bob returns from his mission and is cared for by the Headwoods. Back on Snowpiercer, Javi discovers that something is broken within the engine and that they need a God module to replace it, a module that only Big Alice has. Even though they realize that this was Wilford's plan all along, they are forced to ask his help. He is willing to help them, but on the condition of bringing the module himself. Knowing that if they parade him through Snowpiercer as their only savior, his popularity will increase even more, so Layton decides to secretly bring him aboard. However, after installing the module, the system overloads due to an earlier repair by Melanie. Forced to use the public announcement system, Wilford coordinates the manual restart of Snowpiercer, letting everyone know that he is saving them. When Wilford succeeds, Layton knows that he is done for. Before claiming control of the engine, Wilford has Layton arrested and taken to Big Alice, while Roche is put in a drawer. Following the transition of power, Wilford asks Ruth and Kevin to conduct a census of all the passengers aboard the train for an unknown reason. To further divide the remnants of Layton's power, Javi is sent to Big Alice's engine, while the Headwoods reveal to Josie that they are not only healing her, but are also modifying her to become freeze-resistant. On the background of all this, Wilford has been organizing a dinner for a select group of people. At the dinner, Wilford tells them that they will not be rescuing Melanie, forcing an angered Alex to reveal that the last time a census was held was so that Wilford could discard the people he had no use for. After locking Alex up, Wilford gives Ruth a choice: abandoning Melanie and become head of hospitality, or be stripped of her position. Showing strength of character, Ruth chooses to not abandon Melanie. Meanwhile, Layton is doing manual labor on Big Alice when Javi sends him a message that Melanie has made contact. After Ruth is sent to the same compost cell as Layton, he informs her that Melanie has made contact and the two of them plan and execute their escape. They head to Alex and inform her of the situation and that they need to take control of both engines to rescue Melanie. As part of her plan, Alex apologizes to Wilford in order to secure her freedom. Layton and Ruth then head to Javi in Big Alice's engine and tell him the plan, with Javi informing Bennett in Snowpiercer's engine. Javi then switches the train tracks so they will pass Melanie's observatory. However, Wilford notices the change in scenery and orders both engines to be stormed. Big Alice's engine is soon taken, and even though Snowpiercer is in full brake mode, thanks to its momentum, Big Alice is able to push the longer train past Melanie, with Alex in horror after seeing her mother being left behind. Alex then meets up with Layton and Ruth, whom have made it to Boki. Boki tells them they can hijack a part of the train to go rescue Melanie. With Josie's help, Layton and his crew manage to decouple a part of the train and leave for Melanie. However, when they arrive at the observatory, they discover that Melanie used the last bit of power to preserve her data, which supports her theory that the Earth is indeed warming up while she is nowhere to be found and is presumed dead.